Welcome back to part 7 of building your own crypto portfolio tracking app. In this video, we're going to cover how to set up your app to monitor for value changes and then send notifications by either email, pop-up notification, or text messages when the value changes exceed a certain threshold. So let's get started. First, we're going to look at our asset price table. If you recall, this is a table where we're storing information about the asset prices in general that ultimately get updated into the main asset table through an automation, which populates the price. So the next logical step is to explore the data that we are getting from the API feed already, and we could find one of the more interesting fields and we could find a field that would be relevant for this use case of providing an alert when a certain threshold is met. And this is the price change in the last 24 hours. And also a price change in percentage too. So in this case, I'm going to actually use the raw number and do the math inside the app instead of relying on the percentage from the feed itself. So we're going to use this field, and we could add a new column to this asset table here called price change. And we'll go ahead and tag that onto the end here of the table. We'll call it 24-hour price change. In the asset table, we'll view the columns and we'll regenerate the table to bring in the new column that we added. With this column added, we'll add 2 additional virtual columns here. One's going to be the 24-hour price change API. And this formula is going to be similar to other virtual columns that we've made for API reference, in that we're going to be looking at the asset name from that API table, but we'll change it so we're targeting the price change 24-hour column instead. And then we're also going to calculate the percent change between the 24-hour change and we're going to calculate the percent change, so we have the percentage handy in the table. So now when we go to automation and we navigate to the daily price update automation that we've created, and the action itself called update price and image from API, we can add in the 24-hour price change column to that table that we'll update then, and then we're going to update that with the API field itself, the API value itself, and then we'll hit save. So with that, we've updated our data model to now record the price change into our asset table for the user. Now let's update the views themselves. So with this main view here, we're going to do some changes with this view. Let's plan to add, in addition to the name of the currency, we'll add the price of that cryptocurrency and the percent change all in one item. So to do that, we're going to have to add a virtual column that we'll use, and we'll call this a deck view header. And that just describes how we're going to be using this column here. And we're going to start adding in the different fields we want to combine to generate that new header. So the first one's obviously the asset name, and then we'll concatenate on that a space and an @ symbol to signify the price value. And then we're going to add on the asset price, and then continuing, we're going to, in parentheses, show the price change. So just to review, we have the asset name here, and we're going to append an ampersand with a space, and then we're going to pull in the asset price, and then in parentheses, we're going to have a percent change to show the user. And we'll want to use the 24-hour percent change column, not the 24-hour price change column. So we'll go ahead and test this to make sure it's presenting as intended. So one thing I'll call out here is when you're referencing certain columns in AppSheet, that's a percentage column or a date and time or something like that, price even, as you can see here, we don't have any of the symbols here to describe what kind of numbers we're looking at. It's just pulling in the raw number itself, and we don't necessarily want that. We want to have a more accurate representation of what we're looking at. So we want their dollar sign to be there and a percentage symbol to be there. So in general, to fix that, whenever you're doing that, you want to wrap these columns in text. And you're telling AppSheet when you do that to pull in the text representation of the value versus the actual number itself. And then for asset name, remember asset name itself is an ID that is referenced from the cash asset table. So we want to make sure we pull in the name of the asset as well using a dereference. So now when we test out that formula, we get a much more legible presentation of the data for that header in the view of the app itself. So we'll go ahead and save that. And now in the asset view itself, we're going to change the primary header to this deck view header that we created. And we'll hit save. With the data saved, the virtual column is added, and now we can see much more information in the app itself to help us, along with the percent change. So now we're going to create an automation to send an email when a certain threshold is exceeded. And this same concept can carry over to a pop-up notification for your app or a text message. But for the purposes of me showing you the result, email is a little bit more convenient. So we want to create a new automation that will follow after this automation is created. So we'll create a new bot and we'll describe this as send notification when price change is greater than 5%. For the event, we want this to run daily. It's important that this time is set to after the price update event runs. So if you'll notice, this event runs at 12 p.m. So we'll make sure that this runs later than that. You know, it's arbitrary. You can set it to whatever you want. And we'll make sure we do this for each row of the table, meaning that AppSheet will run through each record in the table, assessing this filter condition we're about to add on whether it's true or not. And this filter condition will be very simply, we want to check that the percent change is greater than 5, it's greater than 0.05, and we have to consider the downside as well, less than negative 0.05. So we have both factors covered, and then we'll want to make sure that it's either or, so we make sure we use or in that situation, and then we'll test this out. So you'll notice here that we have no and then one yes value. And we could scroll to the right here to view the price change. And we could confirm that this formula is working as intended, because the top and bottom ones that said no, they were not within that threshold of over or lower than negative 5%. Then this one was above 5% for Aave. So we can see that's evaluating out to what we want it to evaluate out to. And then we'll go ahead and hit save. Now for the step we're going to add, we're going to send email. And we'll just create a custom step in this case, and we'll create a new task called send an email. This will be very simply, we'll keep this simple, and that we'll add, you can add your email address or however you're setting up the ad. Use default template, you could turn off, and then we can customize email subject. So we'll have a price alert in the subject, and then we can add in asset name.name to pull in the asset name. And then for email body, we could pull in the additional fields if you want. And we could just communicate the price in the email body, and we'll call asset, and then we'll make sure we reference the asset price, and then hit save. So now we can test out this automation, and if it's working as intended, we should receive an alert for Aave here because it has a change over 5%. So I'm going to go ahead and run this automation to test it, and then jump over to my email box. And we can see here that we are successfully receiving an alert, and now we say the price of Aave, and we can see the message we put in here. We see the price of Aave is now $181.70. So this is how quickly and easy you can set up alert notifications in the app. Obviously, you can customize this to whatever you want to, and the same methodology applies if you wanted to create a text message or pop-up notification instead of an email. So with that, thanks everybody for watching. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. And don't forget, I'll have a link to this template app in the description below, so you can simply copy this app and then make it your own as well. Please like and subscribe this video and have a good one.